I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I absolutely understand why conspiracy theories are running riot in America right now, given 2 attempted assassinations on Donald Trump in 7 weeks. Both of them really inexplicable in terms of how they were allowed to happen. One is a young kid who gets on a roof that's unprotected 150 yards from a stage where Trump's appearing. And the other one just waits in a bush for 12 hours by a golf course hole that Trump's going to play because that's what he does every weekend. We'll come to the Secret Service part of this in a moment. But what's your brain telling you? You're a CIA guy to your bootstraps. What does your brain tell you is happening here?
Yeah, it's a great question because what you're seeing, not just in terms of the cadence or the frequency of these assault attempts, but also you're seeing an evolution in the quality or the premeditated intent of that shooting. So when you look at what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania, you had an individual shooter who was essentially planning for the shooting during the event, right? He actually had a scope during the event. He was walking around the crowds. He climbed up on a roof with no escape or no evacuation plan. He essentially either climbed up on that roof with the intent to shoot and then be killed, or he never once thought that he might be shot at upon his escape. So you can see the lack of intentionality, the lack of training, the lack of planning that went into that attempt. Whereas we saw a very different setting in Florida. You saw a shooter show up who had pre-staged himself. He actually had backpacks with ceramic tiles. You don't ever hear people talking about that detail. But to me, when I hear that somebody shows up with ceramic tiles and multiple backpacks, it's because they are trying to create a barrier, an armor, a shield against incoming fire. Well, why would he want that? Because he knew he would be shot at. He would have returning fire. He already had his evacuation route planned. He had himself pre-staged. He had a scope and a sight. He knew that the president was going to be, or the former president was going to be going through a certain order of holes during his golfing day. And he even had his evacuation with his vehicle nearby and staged. And that's how he was able to flee the scene. So you can see an evolution in the intentionality of it, along with the evolution in some of the activity that you've seen in the campaign circuit as well.
But here's the rub on this. I reckon if I said to you, Trump's doing a rally at the location where he was shot, this is before it takes place, where do you reckon the most obvious place is that a shooter could want to get to shoot him? You'd say that roof. Secondly, if I said to you, Trump plays golf every weekend, but he's in Florida at the Trump International at Palm Beach, and he plays the holes in exactly the same order, and there are 3 in a cluster in a corner, which is where the media tend to put themselves to get a clean shot with a camera of him playing golf because it's the best place to get a clean shot. If I said to you those 2 things, right, you would immediately demand in advance proper protection to stop people going to those 2 places. I would. I've never been in the CIA. I've never been in the Secret Service. I'm just a television guy. But I would know immediately that those 2 places are highly likely to be places a would-be assassin would choose to be. So if I'm aware of that, and you would definitely be aware of that, why weren't the Secret Service? And it beggars belief that they just didn't think of this. So when I hear conspiracy theories go, well, they must have known, they wanted this to happen. Obviously, I think that's ridiculous. Every part of me says, no, of course they don't. But I don't have any logical explanation for why they didn't properly protect Trump.
Yeah, at CIA, we follow rules of analysis, right? Rules that help us understand how to make sense of all of the different intelligence that comes in, because you have intelligence that oftentimes is disparate or doesn't agree with each other. And we have a saying, we have a razor or a rule that we follow that says, never subscribe to conspiracy, that which can be explained through incompetence. And I think what we have seen time and time again now with the Secret Service is the second half of that rule. We can't say that they are actively engaged in some sort of secret conspiracy as easily or as logically as we can conclude that they're simply making mistakes. Now, what is the purpose? What is the foundation of those mistakes? It's unlikely that it's that they don't care about the president. It's more likely that it's a lack of resources. It's a lack of support. It's a lack of pre-planning. And imagine being Donald Trump's Secret Service. I mean, that man chooses his own agenda day to day in a way that's very different from what a sitting president gets to do. I mean, even the day that Trump chose to go golfing, He just spontaneously made that decision. That does not give a pass to the Secret Service for leaving open certain vulnerabilities or corridors of attack, but it does help to get an idea of why they are perpetually challenged with their purpose and mission of protecting the former president.
The former First Lady, maybe the next First Lady again, Melania Trump, has got a new book coming out, and to promote it, she released a video saying there's more to that first attack. This was released before the second, than the public have been told. Let's take a look.
The attempt to end my husband's life was a horrible, distressing experience. Now, the silence around it feels heavy. I can't help but wonder, why didn't law enforcement officials arrest the shooter before the speech? There is definitely more to this story, and we need to uncover the truth.
What is bizarre, Andrew, is we seem to know more about the second shooter within 24 hours than we still know about the first one 7 weeks later. So
CIA believes that all people are born with a spy secret superpower. For some people, that means they can win deals. For others, they can spot liars. Some can even seduce lovers. I built a free 3-minute test to help reveal to you exactly what your secret hidden superpower is. All you have to do is click on the link in the description below, take the test, and start using your spy superpower to stay ahead of 99% of people.
just on that first one, do you think the First Lady has a point? Do you think there's just stuff we just don't know about this?
Without a doubt, there are facts, there are details that the American public is not being exposed to. That is just par for the course. That is how secrets and that's how the world of intelligence works. Because in order for the federal government to share all that they know with the American people, they would have to also accept that they're sharing all that they know with foreign adversaries, with anybody who could translate English into a local language. So that's part of the game of secrets that makes it so difficult. However, I will also say that what people aren't identifying or what people aren't willing to talk about yet is how dangerous a game the Biden and Harris camp have been playing since the beginning of this, because they are essentially engaging in what the government very well knows is an influence campaign. They are not just running a presidential election campaign, they are running an influence campaign. And influence campaigns use very specific words, very specific alarmist rhetoric. When you hear people talk about rhetoric, what they're talking about is alarmist rhetoric. They're using terminology. And if you watch the Democratic National Convention, you'll actually see how mass psychosis was leveraged throughout that entire event to create chants that were dark and almost verging on violence, right? Trump is a scab and some of these other terrible things that came out as chants, as rallying cries during what was supposed to be a professional convention. That is further evidence of what we in intelligence call an influence campaign. Traditionally, the most politically embedded candidate has always leveraged these influence campaign tactics. Donald Trump, being a returning candidate, does not have that same network, does not have that same connection that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have been essentially cultivating for the last 4 years.
I mean, interestingly, the second shooter, Ruth, was using towards the end on social media that was found by the media before most of it got shut down, was using direct sentences which had come out of Kamala Harris's mouth about Trump being a threat to democracy and so on. Conversely, Trump every single day, he's just done it now on X, will say that Biden and Harris have destroyed the country and only he can save it. I mean, there's a very kind of apocalyptic language being used on both sides, isn't there?
Yeah, you're right. They are both speaking in generalities that are dark and apocalyptic, to use your term. But I think the big difference that we're seeing here is that Donald Trump's rhetoric is still very much, you know, Donald Trump's improv, his off-the-cuff exploration and trying to come up with, you know, sound bites that sound interesting or relevant. Whereas what we're seeing from the Harris and Biden camp, and I call them the Harris and Biden camp because that is what they are. Let us not forget.
Right.
They are now a combination of sitting president. Yes, sitting president and prospective president, something that has not happened before in history, where a sitting president eligible for re-election simply chose to nominate their vice president. Either way, what you're seeing from that camp are very well-tailored, crafted attacks that are repeated over and over again. Anybody in business, anybody in marketing, even you peers in media, you understand the value of saying the same phrase the same way over and over again.
Yeah.
Right? And that is exactly what is happening from the current sitting administration.
No, I think there'll be lots of
people. It's a very dangerous game because it sets a precedence.
Yeah, there are lots of people out there, I think, who repeatedly hear from the left that Trump represents an existential threat to democracy. Like if
they hear it so much they believe it, Piers. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, if he wins, democracy dies, and they double up by calling him the new Hitler, as if there's any comparison between Donald Trump and Adolf Hitler and the Nazis who murdered 12 million people. I've had a problem with that for a long time. What do you think about these the reports from various people trying to link threats that Trump has received from Iran in particular? Obviously, he took out General Soleimani. He also took out the head of ISIS. Very, very dangerous, bad people, but who you would imagine that the people that follow them may want to exact revenge. There is a theory that's been put out that the fact that the first shooter seems so clean in terms of no motive, no reason coming out, no social media really, that he could have been put there by somebody like a state like Iran or whatever. What do you think of that with your CIA hat on? Is that even remotely possible?
Absolutely, that is well within the realm of possibility. The thing to understand about Iran is that, and really about Donald Trump and his relationship with Iran, because of the activities that he carried out when he was the sitting president, he has created a very clear target on his head because he fought and demonstrated the power of American intent in executing foreign policy that's in the best interest of democracy. That is why Iran still to this day has death threats on his head. They still invest in sending out teams to try to attack Donald Trump. He has a very active Secret Service team now, specifically because even though he hasn't been sitting president for 4 years, he is still a known hot target for the Iranian administration. That is exactly what it means to be a president, right? You execute on things that put you at risk. You carry out activities that you know will make enemies of you because you're doing the right thing for the people that you're trying to protect. That is part of the hard lessons of leadership. And under Barack Obama and under Joe Biden and under the prospective promises of Kamala Harris, they're trying to do the opposite. They're trying to make America friends with everybody. They're not trying to show our power and our might and our ability to unify through power. They're trying to say that we're just part of a larger community. I don't want to be part of a community with Iran that makes terrorism and sponsors terrorism around the world. I don't want to be part of a community with China that takes advantage of childhood labor and tries to force laws that force women to procreate to make more children. I don't want to be part of a global community that's led equally by crazy countries that don't understand true democracy or true leadership. I would rather be part of the strong arm of the United States that ensures that we have a very clear, strong, powerful leadership role in the world.